The name Vincent gave us was Senator Richard Caldwell, a powerful politician with deep ties to the whole corruption. Jessica stared at the name on her phone. She had worked for the CIA for over a decade, but even she never expected this level of betrayal. Caldwell wasn't just another corrupt politician. He was the one who funded the fake HOA enforcers. He was the one protecting Marcus Whitmore. And now, he wanted us dead. I exhaled. So what's the plan? Jessica's eyes hardened. We burn it all down. Calling in the heavy hitters, Jessica made one call. It lasted less than a minute. Then she turned to me. They're in. I blinked. Who's in? Jessica smirked. The people Caldwell fears the most. Within 20 minutes, 2 black subs pulled up outside our house. Men in suits and tactical gear stepped out. I recognized the emblem on their shoulders. The SHIA's Internal Affairs Division. The guys who clean up dirty agents. Jessica greeted them with a nod. Caldwell's been sloppy. Time to expose him. The leader, a stone-faced man named Carter, nodded back. We've been waiting for this. I swallowed. Wait, you knew? Carter exhaled. We had suspicions, but no proof until now. He glanced at Vincent. This your informant? Jessica nodded. Carter studied Vincent. You ready to talk? Vincent smirked. Oh, I'm ready to sink that bastard. The public takedown. The next day, Caldwell walked into a press conference, expecting to announce his re-election campaign. Instead, he walked straight into an ambush. As cameras rolled, Carter and his team stormed the stage. Senator Richard Caldwell, you are under arrest for conspiracy, bribery, and ordering an illegal hit. The gasps from the crowd were deafening. Reporters scrambled for their microphones. Caldwell's face turned white. You can't do this, he sputtered. Carter smiled coldly. We just did. The handcuffs clicked around his wrists. And just like that, the mastermind behind the whole corruption was finished. The fallout, the takedown triggered a chain reaction. Marcus Whitmore lost all his protection in prison. A week later, he was attacked by fellow inmates. Every fake HOA enforcer was rounded up and charged. Homeowners across the state sued the HOA for illegal practices and won. Caldwell's entire political career crumbled overnight. And us? We finally got our lives back. The HOA was disbanded. Our house was ours again. No more fines. No more threats. No more corruption. Just peace. At least for now. One last warning. A month later, I found Jessica sitting on our porch, staring at the sunset. I sat beside her. Thinking about Caldwell? She shook her head. No, thinking about what's next. I frowned. Next? Jessica's voice was quiet. Men like him, they never work alone. A chill ran down my spine. You think there's more? Jessica didn't answer. She just smiled. And somehow, that scared me more than anything. The $2,000 fine was a clear message. This wasn't about rules. This was about control. Jessica and I had 2 options. Pay up and let the HOA walk all over us, or fight back. We chose to fight, and that's when the real nightmare began. The mysterious rule change. The morning after the HOA enforcers visited, I decided to get my hands on the official rule book. If the rules had changed, I wanted to see exactly when and how. I drove to the HOA office, a small but pristine building right outside our neighborhood. Inside, a middle-aged receptionist sat behind a marble desk, typing away. She barely glanced up. Can I help you? Yeah, I said. I live in 341 Penncrest Drive. I need a copy of the whole rule book, the most up-to-date version. She hesitated. Then, in the same monotone voice Jessica had dealt with on the phone, she said, all rule changes are emailed to homeowners. I leaned on the desk. Well, I never got any emails. She finally met my eyes. Cold, uninterested. That's unfortunate. I narrowed my gaze. Then print me a copy. She hesitated again, Then, without another word, turned to a filing cabinet and pulled out a thick stack of papers. She dropped them on the desk with a thud. "Here's the latest edition." I flipped through it, over 100 pages long. And judging by the bold red text and recent date stamps, it had been updated just days before we got our violations. I clenched my jaw. Who changed these? The receptionist smiled faintly. The HOA president and the board. Unanimously approved. Approved by who? I pressed. Did the homeowners get a vote? Her smile disappeared. The board has full authority over rule amendments. I laughed dryly. So you're saying they can just make things up whenever they want? She didn't answer. I grabbed the rule book and walked out. Something was seriously wrong here. A sinister visit. That night, things escalated. Jessica and I were watching tea when the doorbell rang. It was 9 p.m. Too late for a casual visit. I opened the door to find two men in black polo shirts, different from the first group, but still HOA enforcers. The taller one spoke. "Mr. Carter, you missed your fine deadline." My blood boiled. "The deadline is in 7 days. The man grinned. "Not anymore. New rule. Immediate payment is required if homeowners are deemed non-compliant." Jessica appeared behind me, arms crossed. "Let me guess. That rule was changed today." The shorter man smirked. "You're catching on." I exhaled sharply, keeping my temper in check. "I don't have $2,000 in cash. Bill me." The taller man tilted his head. "That's unfortunate." There was a pause. Then the shorter one said, "The HOA is offering alternative solutions." My stomach turned. "What kind of solutions?" The taller guy grinned. "Well, the HOA could overlook your fines if you signed over certain property rights." Jessica stiffened. "What the hell does that mean?" The shorter one pulled out a contract. "Acknowledging that HOA enforcement officers have unrestricted access to your property. No questions asked." I snatched the paper. The fine print was even worse. "No security cameras allowed. HOA officers can enter the home at will. No legal action can be taken against the HOA for property damage." I laughed. "You think I'm insane?" The taller man's grin faded. "Mr. Carter, refusal to cooperate could lead to legal consequences." Jessica snapped. "Get the hell off our porch before I call the cops." The two men exchanged a look. Then, slowly, they backed away. "This isn't over," the taller one murmured. They walked to their black SUV and drove off. Jessica slammed the door shut. Her hands were shaking. "This isn't an HOA. It's a damn crime ring." I exhaled. "We need to find out who's running this." Jessica's face hardened. "We need to fight back." A dark discovery. The next morning, I called a real estate lawyer. I explained everything. The sudden fines, the rulebook changes, the threats. After a long silence, the lawyer said, "You're not the first person to call me about Oak Ridge Estates." A chill ran down my spine. "What do you mean?" "There have been complaints, but nothing sticks. Every lawsuit gets shut down fast." Jessica, sitting beside me, muttered, "Because they have the money to bury it." The lawyer sighed. "Exactly." I gritted my teeth. "There has to be something we can do." The lawyer hesitated. Then she said something that changed everything. "There is one name that keeps coming up." I grabbed a pen. "Who?" She lowered her voice. "David Langston." I froze. Jessica whispered, "Who the hell is David Langston?" The lawyer took a breath. "The HOA president. And if half the rumors about him are true." Another pause. Then quietly, "He's more dangerous than you think." Jessica and I exchanged a nervous glance. We were officially in over our heads, and things were about to get a lot worse. Jessica and I sat in stunned silence. David Langston. The name felt like a warning. If he was the puppet master behind this corrupt HOA, we needed to find out everything about him. But something told me he already knew about us, and he wasn't going to let us walk away without a fight. A shady history. I started my search the way anyone would. I Googled him. Surprisingly, there was almost nothing. No LinkedIn, no Facebook, not even a proper bio on the whole website. That was weird. Even the most power-hungry Ho presidents liked to show off their authority. Jessica peered over my shoulder. Try court records. I hesitated. How the hell do I do that? She smirked. Watch and learn. Jessica pulled up the county records database and started searching. And that's when things got really interesting. A trail of lawsuits. David Langston wasn't just an Ho president. He was a lawsuit magnate. 2009. Accused of fraud in a shady land deal. Case dismissed. 2012. Investigated for tax evasion. No charges filed. 2016. Allegations of intimidation and harassment against homeowners. Case settled. 2021. Accused of embezzling Ho funds. No charges stuck. Jessica let out a low whistle. This guy is untouchable. I clenched my jaw. Or just protected. That's when Jessica clicked a link that made my blood run cold. A missing person. It was an old article from 2018. A homeowner named Daniel Mercer had gone missing. Last seen in our neighborhood. Specifically, after filing a lawsuit against the Ho. The lawsuit. He had accused David Langston of fraud, harassment, and illegal property seizures. The article was brief, just a few paragraphs about how Mercer had vanished without a trace after refusing to drop the case. No body, no suspects, no leads. I stared at the screen. Jessica swallowed hard. You think Langston had something to do with it? I exhaled slowly. If he can erase lawsuits, who's to say he can't erase people? A chill settled between us. Then, suddenly, a loud knock on the door. Jessica and I froze. I glanced at the clock. 10:15 p.m. Too late for a friendly visit. The Ho sends another message. I grabbed a bat from behind the couch and peeked through the peephole. A man in a suit stood on our porch. Not one of the thugs from before. This guy looked official. I cracked the door open, keeping the bat out of sight. Can I help you? The man smiled. Good evening, Mr. Carter. I'm Mr. Ellison, legal counsel for the Oak Ridge Ho. A lawyer. Great. I'd like to discuss your continued violations and your refusal to comply with Ho regulations. Jessica crossed her arms. Funny. We were just reading up on Ho corruption. Maybe you can help us out. Ellison's smile didn't falter. The Ho takes rule enforcement very seriously. I strongly advise you to reconsider your stance. I leaned against the doorframe. Or what? Ellison's smile finally faded. Or we take action. A beat of silence. Then he handed me an envelope. I opened it. Inside was a cease and desist letter. And at the bottom, a court summons. I laughed dryly. You're suing us. Ellison adjusted his tie. The Ho will be seeking damages for your non-compliance. Jessica snatched the letter from my hands. This is bullshit. We haven't even done anything. Ellison's voice was calm. You're obstructing enforcement. I folded my arms. You mean we're not letting you extort us? Ellison didn't respond. He just smiled again. Be careful, Mr. Carter. Some fights aren't worth winning. And then, without another word, he turned and walked away. Jessica slammed the door shut. Enough was enough. I took a deep breath. We need a real plan. Jessica nodded. I have an idea. She walked to her phone, pulled up a number, and hit call. I raised an eyebrow. Who are you calling? Jessica's eyes burned with determination. My team. My stomach dropped. Jessica had been vague about her past work. I knew she had government clearance, that she'd worked with intelligence agencies, but I never pressed for details. Now I had a feeling she was about to drop a bombshell. She put the phone on speaker. It rang once, twice. Then a deep voice answered, Agent Reeves speaking. Jessica's expression hardened. Reeves, it's Jess. I need a favor. A pause. Then, how bad? Jessica shot me a look. Blackmail. Threats. Maybe worse. Silence. Then Reeves sighed. Send me everything you have. I'll put some eyes on it. Jessica exhaled. Thanks. She hung up and turned to me. I stared at her. You just called the Shia, didn't you? She shrugged. Former Shia. I blinked. Jessica grinned. You didn't marry some soccer mom, babe. I laughed nervously. Jesus Christ. Jessica's grin faded. They picked the wrong couple to mess with. And for the first time, I actually felt like we had a chance. The room was silent except for the hum of Jessica's laptop. She had been digging through databases, cross-referencing names, and sending encrypted messages to her old Shia contacts. I watched her work, a mix of awe and anxiety creeping over me. You really were a spook, huh? I muttered. Jessica smirked, not looking up. A damn good one. Then suddenly, her fingers froze on the keyboard. Her eyes widened. I leaned forward. What? Jessica swallowed hard. David Langston isn't just some power-hungry whole president. It frowned. Then what the hell is he? Jessica turned the laptop toward me. On the screen was an old intelligence file. A classified one. Langston's real name was David Lancaster, and he wasn't just a scam artist. He was a criminal informant with ties to organized crime. My stomach twisted. Jesus Christ. Jessica exhaled slowly. That's not the worst part. She scrolled down. Beneath his name was a list of known associates. And there, right at the top, Mr. Ellison, the Ho's lawyer, the whole mafia. I stood up, pacing. This isn't just some greedy hole. These guys are running an entire extortion racket. Jessica nodded. They take over hoes, enforce ridiculous rules, rack up fake fines, and then threaten people into selling their homes. Then they flip the houses for huge profits. And the people who don't comply, Jessica didn't answer. She didn't have to. We both knew what had happened to Daniel Mercer. Jessica clicked on another tab. It traced their financials. Guess what? They've laundered over $20 million through renovation projects and legal fees. My blood ran cold. That wasn't whole corruption. That was organized crime. And no, they had their sights set on us. The Ho strikes back as if on cue. My phone buzzed. A new email from the Ho. Subject, final notice of violation. I opened it. It was a demand letter. Unpaid fines, $50,000. Immediate lien on property. Eviction proceedings pending. They were stealing our home. I clenched my jaw. They're trying to force us out. Jessica narrowed her eyes. They're pushing harder because they know we're onto them. Then, bang, bang, bang. A pounding on the front door. Jessica grabbed the bat. I grabbed the kitchen knife. Whole security. Open up. My heart pounded. I peered through the peephole. 2 massive men stood outside, wearing fake security uniforms. I whispered, "We're not opening that door." Jessica's phone buzzed. It was Reeves. She put it on speaker. "Jess, listen carefully. We just ran a deep dive on these guys. The Ho isn't just a fraud operation." I frowned. "Then what the hell is it?" Reeves' voice dropped an octave. "It's a front for an underground syndicate, and they've eliminated multiple homeowners who refused to comply." My breath caught in my throat. These guys are killers, professional ones, and if they're at your door, you need to get out. Now. Jessica's jaw tightened. Not happening. Reeves cursed. "Damn it, Jess. Call in the favor." Jessica exhaled. Then she nodded. She tapped a series of numbers into her phone and hit send. A robotic voice responded. "Authorization received. Response team en route." I stared at her. "What did you just do?" Jessica cracked her neck. "I just called in a Shia-sanctioned strike team." I gawked. She grinned. "These whole assholes have no idea what's coming." The standoff, the men outside kept banging. Final warning. "Open up." Jessica smirked. Come and get us, assholes. Then, bang. A loud crash as they kicked the door in. Jessica swung the bat. Crack. One guy went down immediately. The second reached for his gun. Before he could pull it, Jessica had already slammed a knee into his ribs and flipped him onto the floor. I stood there, blinking. Holy shit. Jessica wiped her hands. Still got it. Then we heard it. The sound of helicopters. The men on the floor started panicking. They recognized that sound. It wasn't police. It wasn't SWAT. It was something worse. The HOA had no idea who they had just messed with. The HOA shuts it down, the front yard flooded with black subs. Men in tactical gear stormed the property. A voice boomed over a loudspeaker. Federal operatives. Get down now. The fake HOA security thugs hit the ground, hands in the air. David Langston came running out of his house, screaming, "This is illegal. You have no authority here." Then Reeves stepped forward. Jessica grinned. "Hey, Reeves." Reeves smirked. "Hey, Jess." Langston turned pale. He knew exactly who Reeves was, and that's when the cuffs went on. Not just for Langston, but for Ellison, the board members, and every corrupt HOA enforcer in town. The fallout. The next morning, the news exploded. Massive HOA fraud ring busted in FB/HOA joint operation. Langston and his cronies faced charges of fraud, extortion, and conspiracy. Every homeowner who had been scammed got their money back. Jessica and I. We got a free house. The feds seized all HOA assets, including our fines. They also cleared our mortgage as compensation. I looked at Jessica and whistled. Well, that worked out. Jessica grinned. Told you. You didn't marry some soccer mom. I pulled her in for a kiss. Then I glanced at our now HOA-free neighborhood. No more corruption. No more threats. Just peace. And if another HOA ever tried to mess with us, well, they'd have to deal with Jessica first. And that would be their biggest mistake. After the dramatic raid that brought down Langston and his fake HOA enforcers, our neighborhood was finally free, or at least that's what we thought. With Langston in federal custody and the corrupt HOA board dismantled, I had expected life to return to normal. But then, Jessica's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her face darkening. I peered over her shoulder. The message was simple. You have no idea what you just started. No name. No number. But we knew exactly who it was from. Jessica clenched her jaw. They're still out there. The HOA's secret backup plan. Even with their leaders behind bars, the HOA's corrupt machine wasn't dead yet. Jessica dug deeper. What she found made my blood run cold. Langston wasn't the real boss. He was just a pawn in a much bigger operation. The whole fraud wasn't just local, it was nationwide. An entire network of corrupt board members, fake security enforcers, and high-powered attorneys still operated in the shadows. And no, they wanted revenge. The night attack that evening, I heard something strange outside, a faint, metallic clinking. Jessica and I exchanged a look. She grabbed her gun. I crept to the front window and peeked outside. Then my stomach dropped. A group of masked men was cutting our power lines. Jessica whispered, "They're not here to scare us. They're here to eliminate us." My heart pounded. Then let's make them regret it. Jessica smirked. Now you're thinking like a spook. Trapped in our own home. Suddenly, bang, bang, bang. The back door was kicked in. I spun around just as two men rushed in. Jessica was faster. Crack. She smashed the butt of her gun into the first guy's jaw. The second guy lunged at me. I grabbed a kitchen chair and slammed it into his ribs. He groaned, staggering back. Jessica aimed her gun. "Drop it," she barked. The man hesitated. Then he reached into his jacket. Jessica didn't wait. Bang. A warning shot hit the floor near his foot. "Next one goes in your knee," she said coldly. That did the trick. He froze. Jessica nodded toward the cuffs on the counter. Cuff yourself to the fridge." The man hesitated until Jessica's trigger finger twitched. He obeyed. That's when we heard footsteps on the stairs. More were coming. Jessica handed me a taser. "Let's finish this." The final showdown, we moved fast. Jessica took the upstairs hallway while I held the staircase. 3 men charged up, but I was ready. I slammed my shoulder into the first attacker, sending him crashing down. The second swung at me. I ducked, jammed the taser into his ribs. Zist! He dropped like a brick. The third hesitated. Big mistake. Jessica shot out a leg, sweeping his feet from under him. Thud! I exhaled. "You okay?" Jessica smirked. "I've had worse." Then, sirens. Bright red and blue lights flashed outside. I let out a breath. We'd won. But then Jessica's face fell. "No, it's not over yet." The real mastermind steps forward. A black Mercedes SUV rolled up. The back door opened. A man in a perfectly tailored suit stepped out. Jessica tensed. I frowned. "Who is that?" Jessica's voice was like steel. "Marcus Whitmore." My stomach twisted. She had mentioned his name before. The real power behind the whole fraud. The ghost in the system. He smirked. "Jessica, I was wondering when you'd figure it out." Jessica didn't lower her gun. "You're done, Whitmore." He chuckled. "Am I?" The police officers got out of their cars and shook his hand. Whitmore grinned. "You didn't think I'd come without my friends, did you?" Jessica cursed under her breath. The local police were on his payroll. We weren't out of the woods yet. Checkmate, or so he thought. Whitmore sighed, adjusting his cuffs. "Now let's make this easy. You two leave this town and forget everything." I clenched my fists. Jessica just smirked. Whitmore's grin faltered. Jessica slowly reached into her pocket, pulled out her phone, tapped one button. A voice boomed from the speakers. "Marcus Whitmore, this is the spy. Step away from the house." Whitmore's eyes widened. Jessica grinned. "You didn't think I'd come without my friends, did you?" Then, black fee subs tore down the street. Agents stormed out, guns drawn. The corrupt cops panicked, raising their hands. Whitmore turned to run. Jessica stepped forward, grabbing his wrist. He froze. Her voice was deadly calm. "You lost." Click. The fee agent cuffed him. Whitmore screamed as they dragged him away. And just like that, it was over. The aftermath. Whitmore and his corrupt whole empire were dismantled. The fake police force was arrested. Every homeowner in the neighborhood won their homes back. And Jessica? She got a direct commendation from the CIA. One day, as we sat on our porch, I turned to her. "So, what now?" Jessica took a sip of her coffee. "Well, I was thinking about running for HOA president." I choked on my drink. She laughed. "Kidding. But if another corrupt HOA pops up, well..." She cracked her knuckles. "They better be ready for me." And just like that, our nightmare was over. Or at least for now. After Marcus Whitmore's dramatic arrest, I thought we had finally won. The FBI had taken down the corrupt whole empire, arrested dozens of fake enforcers, and secured our neighborhood. But deep down, Jessica and I knew it wasn't over. Not yet. Because a snake like Whitmore didn't build an empire without backup plans. And his people, they weren't done fighting. The legal nightmare begins. It started small. A letter in the mail. Then another. And another. Within a week, we had over 20 notices from different law firms, all claiming we had violated whole regulations. Jessica scanned through the papers, her expression unreadable. I paced. "This is insane. The whole doesn't even exist anymore." Jessica tossed the letters onto the coffee table. "They're trying to drown us in legal fees. Typical scare tactic." I exhaled sharply. "Do they really think we'll just back down?" Jessica smirked. "They're counting on it." I shook my head. "No, not happening." Jessica nodded. "Then we fight. the frozen bank account. The next morning, I tried to use my credit card at the gas station. Declined. I tried my debit card. Declined again. Confused, I called the bank. The representative's voice was apologetic but firm. Sir, your accounts have been frozen due to an ongoing investigation. Jessica was already pulling out her laptop. She typed furiously, her face darkening. They're hitting us from every angle. I clenched my fists. Whitmore might be locked up, but his people are still pulling the strings. Jessica's phone buzzed. She picked it up, listened for a second, then cursed. They're trying to repossess our house. My blood ran cold. What? Jessica's jaw tightened. They forged backdated fines and claimed we owe the whole $50,000. It grabbed the phone. This is fraud. We can fight this. Jessica met my gaze. Exactly, but they're betting we can't afford to. A desperate plan. We had two choices. Play defense, hire a lawyer, drain our savings, and hope we could win in court. Go on the attack. Jessica's eyes burned with determination. I say we take the fight to them. I frowned. But how? Jessica smiled. I still have a few Shia contacts. I raised an eyebrow. Jessica, the agency doesn't just solve personal problems. She shrugged. No, but they do love taking down corruption. And just like that, we had a plan. Jessica calls in a favor. That night, Jessica made a secure call. When she hung up, she turned to me. Pack a bag. I blinked. Why? She grinned. We're going to Washington, D.C., the unexpected ally. The next morning, we met Agent Donovan, one of Jessica's former Shia colleagues. Tall, broad-shouldered, with piercing blue eyes, he had the air of someone who had seen it all. He shook my hand firmly. Jessica tells me you've got quite the mess on your hands. I nodded. Donovan exhaled. I ran a background check on the remaining HOA board members. Guess what I found? Jessica smirked. They're dirty. Donovan nodded. Filthy. He pulled out a file. Fraud, embezzlement, racketeering. Some of these guys were laundering money through shell companies. My stomach twisted. These people weren't just running a bad HOA. They were running a criminal empire. Donovan leaned forward. They still have powerful connections. But here's the thing, so do we. Jessica raised an eyebrow. So what's the plan? Donovan grinned. We hit them where it hurts. Operation HOA Takedown. With Donovan's help, we compiled a dossier filled with evidence of corruption, illegal HOA fees, fake security enforcers, bribery of local officials. Then Donovan made a few calls. Within hours, a multi-agency task force was assembled, FBI, heirs, and the Department of Justice. Jessica leaned back, arms crossed. Think they'll take the bait. Donovan smirked. Oh, they won't just take it. They'll choke on it. The trap is set. We lured the remaining board members into a fake emergency HOA meeting. They walked in, smug and confident. Then the FBI stormed in. Panic. Chaos. Handcuffs clicked as agents swarmed the room. Jessica watched with a satisfied smile. Checkmate. The final nail in the coffin. With the remaining board members arrested, the HOA's fraudulent cases against us collapsed overnight. Our accounts were unfrozen. The fake legal claims were thrown out. The entire HOA scam was exposed to the public. Jessica and I stood outside our home, watching the last corrupt board members being loaded into police cars. I turned to her. You know, I thought fighting a corrupt HOA would be boring. Jessica laughed. Boring? With me around? I chuckled. Never. The aftermath. A week later, Donovan called. You two are officially free. No more fraudulent HOA charges. No more legal threats. And the best part. Jessica and I had helped take down a criminal empire. I wrapped an arm around her. So what now? She smirked. Retirement. I raised an eyebrow. You retire? Jessica laughed. Fine. Maybe just a little break. I exhaled. Sounds good to me. And just like that, the battle was over. For now, for the first time in months, I felt peaceful. The corrupt HOA was destroyed. The fake enforcers were arrested. Our home was safe again. Or so we thought, because evil doesn't die easily. And this HOA, it had one final trick up its sleeve, the warning call. Jessica's phone rang just as we were celebrating over breakfast. She glanced at the caller ID and frowned. "Donovan?" He tensed. She answered. "What's wrong?" His voice was serious. "We just intercepted a message." Jessica sat up straight. "What kind of message?" Donovan hesitated. "A hit order." I nearly choked on my coffee. "A what?" Jessica's eyes darkened. "Who's the target?" Donovan exhaled. "You and your husband." The world tilted. "They're putting out a contract on us," I whispered. Jessica clenched her jaw. Donovan's voice was low. "Marcus Whitmore still has friends on the outside. They're willing to pay big money to make sure you two don't testify in court." Jessica's grip tightened on the phone. "Tell me everything." A shadow from the past. That night, Jessica worked in silence. She scanned databases, hacked into encrypted messages, and pulled every favor she could. Finally, she looked up. Her face was grim. "They've hired someone." I swallowed. "A hitman?" Jessica nodded. I exhaled. "Do we know who?" Jessica hesitated. Then she turned the screen towards me, and my blood ran cold, because I recognized the face staring back at me. "Vincent Duran," I whispered. Jessica nodded. "An old Black Ops operative. A ghost. And now? A mercenary." Jessica's expression hardened. "If he's coming, we need to be ready." Turning the tables, Jessica and I didn't run. We didn't hide. Instead, we set a trap. Vincent was good, but Jessica, she was better. The setup. We knew Vincent would go for the easiest shot, so we gave him one. We rented a hotel room, making it seem like we were laying low. Then we set up a decoy. Jessica hacked into the hotel's security system, planting fake camera feeds. I waited inside the room. The bait. Jessica? She waited on the rooftop. Silent. Deadly. Ready. The attack at 2:14 a.m. We heard it. The click of a silencer. Jessica whispered through my earpiece. "He's here." I stayed still, pretending to be asleep. The door handle turned slowly. Then, crash. The door burst open. A masked figure stormed in, gun raised, only to freeze, because the bed was empty, and behind him, Jessica, gun pressed to his skull. "Drop it, Vincent." He didn't move. Jessica cocked the gun. I said, "Drop it." Slowly, Vincent let the weapon fall to the floor. I stepped out of the shadows. "Long time no see." Vincent sighed. "Well, this is embarrassing." The interrogation. We tied Vincent to a chair. Jessica leaned forward. "Who hired you?" Vincent smirked. "You already know." Jessica's eyes narrowed. "Marcus Whitmore is in prison. He doesn't have the power to call in a hit." Vincent shrugged. "Maybe not, but his money still does." I clenched my jaw. "So he has people on the outside." Vincent nodded. Jessica exhaled sharply. "Who?" Vincent hesitated. Then he chuckled. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." Jessica's fingers tightened on the chair. "Try me." Vincent's grin widened. "Your ex-boss." My stomach dropped. Jessica's face went blank. "What?" Vincent leaned back. "You heard me. Someone high up doesn't want you two testifying." Jessica stared at him. Then she muttered under her breath, "Son of a..." She grabbed her phone. I frowned. "What are you doing?" Jessica's eyes were ice cold. "I'm calling in the big guns. The final battle begins." Vincent gave us a name. A powerful politician with deep ties to the whole corruption. And now, that man wanted us dead. Jessica turned to me. We're not just fighting the HOA anymore. I nodded. We're fighting something bigger. Jessica smirked. Good. I raised an eyebrow. Good. She cracked her knuckles. I was getting bored. I exhaled. This is insane. Jessica grinned. Welcome to my world. And just like that, the real fight began. The name Vincent gave us was Senator Richard Caldwell, a powerful politician with deep ties to the HOA corruption. Jessica stared at the name on her phone. She had worked for the CIA for over a decade, but even she never expected this level of betrayal. Caldwell wasn't just another corrupt politician. He was the one who funded the fake HOA enforcers. He was the one protecting Marcus Whitmore. And now? He wanted us dead. I exhaled. So what's the plan? Jessica's eyes hardened. We burn it all down. Calling in the heavy hitters, Jessica made one call. It lasted less than a minute. Then she turned to me. They're in. I blinked. Who's in? Jessica smirked. The people Caldwell fears the most. Within 20 minutes, 2 black SUVs pulled up outside our house. Men in suits and tactical gear stepped out. I recognized the emblem on their shoulders. The CIA's Internal Affairs Division. The guys who clean up dirty agents. Jessica greeted them with a nod. Caldwell's been sloppy. Time to expose him. The leader, a stone-faced man named Carter, nodded back. We've been waiting for this. I swallowed. Wait, you knew? Carter exhaled. We had suspicions, but no proof, until now. He glanced at Vincent. This your informant? Jessica nodded. Carter studied Vincent. You ready to talk? Vincent smirked. Oh, I'm ready to sink that bastard. The public takedown. The next day, Caldwell walked into a press conference, expecting to announce his re-election campaign. Instead, he walked straight into an ambush. As cameras rolled, Carter and his team stormed the stage. Senator Richard Caldwell, you are under arrest for conspiracy, bribery, and ordering an illegal hit. The gasps from the crowd were deafening. Reporters scrambled for their microphones. Caldwell's face turned white. You can't do this, he sputtered. Carter smiled coldly. We just did. The handcuffs clicked around his wrists. And just like that, the mastermind behind the HOA corruption was finished. The fallout. The takedown triggered a chain reaction. Marcus Whitmore lost all his protection in prison. A week later, he was attacked by fellow inmates. Every fake HOA enforcer was rounded up and charged. Homeowners across the state sued the HOA for illegal practices and won. Caldwell's entire political career crumbled overnight. And us. We finally got our lives back. The HOA was disbanded. Our house was ours again. No more fines. No more threats. No more corruption. Just peace. At least for now. One last warning. A month later, I found Jessica sitting on our porch, staring at the sunset. I sat beside her. Thinking about Caldwell? She shook her head. No, thinking about what's next. I frowned. Next? Jessica's voice was quiet. Men like him, they never work alone. A chill ran down my spine. You think there's more? Jessica didn't answer. She just smiled. And somehow, that scared me more than anything.